Good morning, Bravo bosses, and welcome to I Take Bravo Very Seriously with me, your host, Dana. Today on the agenda is some housekeeping items, then we talk John Jansen on Entertainment Tonight, then we have some updates in the Vanderverse, and then we talk The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Let's get into it! Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Today was actually supposed to be a really special episode. I was supposed to have a really, really amazing interview, but it got rescheduled, so I'm hoping that it's still gonna happen. If so, it should happen within the next couple of days. It's someone from the Vanderpump Rules world, so I think you guys will really enjoy it. I'm really excited about it, so, let's put good things into the universe. Hope that this happens. So today's episode will be a little bit shorter because I had like a million bonus episodes last week covering the news. So there isn't a ton of news this week. And then we'll do the recaps for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And then hopefully later in the week, in the next couple of days, I'll get you guys this awesome interview. That's my hope. And then going forward, what I think I'm going to do is after this, every Monday from now on, we'll do an episode called Pop Culture Pulse Check, where I will cover all the news in the Bravoverse. And then later in the week, I will give you your recaps. And I'm just really excited about that. That way, I'm going to get you guys 2 episodes a week. Make sure you get all of your content. But let's get into it, and let's start with John Jansen on Entertainment Tonight, because this man decided that he still wanted to keep speaking. So he reached out to Bryce Sanders, who is a reporter for Entertainment Tonight. He actually met Bryce Sanders through Shannon, which Shannon actually said this week on Jeff Lewis. So he sat down with Bryce Sanders and he was like, look, I know that the public hates me. I know that nothing I'm going to say right now is actually going to change anyone's minds, but I want to do it anyway. And Bryce is like, all right, man, you do you. So he came in with saying a bunch of things that he felt he needed to clarify because he says that he has not gotten the chance to speak yet or say his piece, so this is his opportunity. Even though I sort of feel like he has, like he's had those little moments on Watch What Happens Live. He's jumped in on interviews that Alexis has been doing, like other podcasts and stuff, but all right, man. So one of his main points was that he was actually a condition in Shannon's Bravo contract. He says that he didn't want to do the show. The only reason he did the show was for her so that she could have a job. He's saying that for several years, his appearances were actually conditional on her contract for her to have a job, so he was sort of in a no-win position because he didn't want his partner not to have a job. Okay, I mean, this is obviously something that could be proven, so I'm kind of curious to hear about that. Then he talked about how much money he actually spent on the relationship. So he claims that at the beginning of the relationship, there were a lot of trips that they had that were sort of Bravo related, things, like dinners and trips and flights and lots of things. And he just sort of assumed that Bravo covered all of that. And then when Shannon explained to him that that's not exactly the way that it works, then he did start contributing. And that's when he, I guess, got a forensic accountant and found out that he actually paid $380,000 during the term of their relationship, and he felt that this was really important to point out. And then he spoke on the loans specifically, so I'm going to play you guys a clip of where he talks about the loans. Just give me 1 second. Let's see. Okay, these are the two loans.
Meaning that it was just a cash flow issue and that she would pay me back in 2 months. She needed money for her facelift. I wired her $40,000 and then a promissory note shortly thereafter.
Can't do it after.
She got irate at the promissory note and sent me a long email stating how much money she made and how, of course, she would pay me back and that this was a loan between a boyfriend and girlfriend. So Shannon knows it was a loan, has never made any attempts to pay it back. Then after we were broken up, she again was having cash flow problems and couldn't pay her bills. And she was crying to me on the phone. And I said, look, Shannon, I'm going to help you. This is an exact quote. I said, Shannon, you know how volatile our relationship is. And I said, even if you come to hate me, you need to pay me back. And she cried and said, of course I will, John. And she didn't do that. One where it was me that.
So what I don't understand then is why did he give her the second loan if she hadn't paid back the first loan? Especially because they weren't in a relationship anymore when he had given her the second loan. So based on precedent of her not paying him back, why would he give her the money? That didn't really make any sense. Then he explains why he wouldn't sign a non-disparagement agreement, and I'll play you guys this clip.
Mention of those ever
Sorry.
on me, so I couldn't, because I hadn't spoken, I hadn't defended myself, so I wouldn't be able to correct the record of all the past disparagement that has taken place.
Past disparagement.
So I just said, look, I want a straight financial deal. Just pay me back the money that you owe me, and with no strings attached. She had already disparaged me so for so long and so badly, and there's a lot of it. I mean, that I won't disclose. I will say that it caused serious damages to me and one of the companies I own.
That makes no sense. How could it cause damage to one of the companies he owns for Shannon to say that she spent more on their relationship at the beginning than he did? How could that affect any of his businesses? That makes literally no sense. And if it does, what kind of business is this? It doesn't make any sense. Then Alexis, rooting for her man, pushes out those receipts that she claimed for this whole time that she was going to give us. So it sort of just looks like a list of numbers. It says like first year, second year, third year. It totals $380,000. And then there's the two loans attached to that, which equals $455,000. I don't know what he thinks this proves at the end of. Okay, at the end of the day, let's say he's right, okay? Let's say he spent more money on the relationship than Shannon did and Shannon was wrong. Okay. Does that make you a good person? This is so weird as to what he's trying to do here because his whole goal in life is to not come off as a bad person, right? No one would think you're a bad person for being in a relationship where your partner paid more for a period of time. Like, nobody was judging him on that. People are judging you on this. People are judging you for suing her. People are judging you for being in her life continuously as she is trying to move on. And then to sit there and judge like she's not moving on. She's not moving on because you keep entrenching yourself into her life. You did this entire season was about you, because if he had not been suing her, she wouldn't be talking about him. Nothing would be going on, but the whole season ended up being about the lawsuit because he was suing her. So he's such an idiot, the two of them, and Alexis too, for thinking that they're going to come out of this in any sort of positive way. I mean, he said he knows that they're not, but I'm sure a little part of him thinks that he will, and he's not. And all we want now, and I think we've been clear, go away. Go away, John and Alexis, go away. We will be so much happier. We will like you better if you go away. If you want us to like you, you go away, right? Help me, help you. I feel like we're not being clear. And I don't know. I don't know what else to do, but I feel like now, hopefully, that the season is over, the quote unquote receipts have been released, we are done with John and Alexis. And I am done talking about John and Alexis. So let's move on. Okay. So obviously last week was a really big week in the Vanderverse. We found out that Vanderpump Rules, as we know it, is no more. It's going to be rebooted with a whole new cast, and the OG members are not going to be on the show. We obviously know that Schwartz and Sheena and Lala will make appearances on the Valley. We don't know what's going to happen to the rest of the cast members. We also found out that Kristen Doty is pregnant, which is so exciting for her and Luke. Congrats to Kristen, as we mentioned last week. But some other details that also pumped out of the Vanderverse last week is that Melissa and Jasmine from the Valley got engaged, which is so exciting for them. Jasmine, you may know initially from The Bachelor. So she was actually on The Bachelor years ago. She was on Nick Vile's season, and I think she did a Bachelor in Paradise season as well. I think she was also a basketball playing, or sorry, I think she was a cheerleader for a basketball team as well. And Melissa is someone who actually was her brother's best friend from her hometown. And then Melissa ended up moving out here to LA and not knowing anyone and started hanging out with Jasmine. And then they fell in love. And I think they've been together like 3 or 4 years. So congrats to Jasmine and Melissa. And hopefully we'll get to see. Well, obviously, we won't see that play out on the Valley because it just happened, but hopefully, we'll be able to see a little bit more of their love story because we didn't really get to see much of it last season because Melissa wasn't in it that much. We also got a few more responses from some Vanderpump Rules people in terms of the ending of the show. So I'll read you what Tom Sandoval said because he finally came out with something and he said, "Where do I begin? I'm overwhelmed with so many emotions right now. The unbelievable series of events that brought this group together still blows my mind to this day. From a random meeting with Jax while modeling in Miami to responding to a Craigslist ad for another Tom looking for a roommate. Who would have thought that a stop along the way while chasing our dreams would turn into the cultural phenomenon that is Vanderpump Rules? We were unaware that this effect, or how this effect we were unaware as to the effect this show would have on our lives. The foundation of Vanderpump Rules was built on pure, honest, raw emotions, triumphs, struggles, and love that happened between a group of real friends and our relationships. As soon as we started filming, shit got real and never turned back. It's been a roller coaster ride, and you've been with us through every step of the way. To NBC Universal, Bravo, Evolution, Lisa, Ken, showrunners, field producers, and members of the crew who busted their asses with us in the trenches, my fellow cast members, and friends. Most importantly, to each and every fan, thank you all for believing in us and being part of this 12-year journey. It's hard to put into words what I'm feeling right now. As in life, so much has happened over the years. Some of my past decisions led to incredibly challenging times, for which I've learned valuable lessons and experienced personal growth. Despite the difficulties, I'm filled with gratitude for the learning experience and forever grateful for all of the memories. Until we meet again, Sandy. A lot of people said they didn't feel that he wrote that himself, and he probably didn't. But, it does still get emotional still to this day thinking about it. It's been a little less than a week since we found out, and it's funny because we've spent so many months now being almost like bored of talking about Vanderpump Rules and what's going to happen with it. And it's just become sort of tired to the point where I feel like the fandom was just kind of tired of Bravo in general and definitely with Vanderpump Rules. But since we got this news, it's sort of taken on a different life. Like, there's a nostalgia to it now. Now that it's over, all we want to see is clips from Vanderpump Rules and memories and hear stories because now it just has this different feeling. It's over, and now we want to relish in it and cherish it and its time in a very different way. So you'll definitely be seeing a lot more stuff about Vanderpump Rules from me on Instagram at the Bravo Investigator because I'm just literally rewatching constantly and pumping out clips just that I feel are beautiful and funny and memorable and enjoyable. So that's been really great. Lala and Janet and Jared Lishcombe, he's their makeup guy. He was a little bit on the Valley. They were all on Shenanigans last week, and they didn't talk a ton about the show, but the main two highlights were actually came from Janet asking the good questions, so good on Janet. She asked basically if Lala and Sheena would try to rectify any of the friendships that they've sort of burned or lost now that they won't be filming with those same people. And both of them basically said no, that they're good with the friends that they have and nothing will sort of be changing for them on that end. And then Janet also asked Lala and Sheena if they would have done anything differently if they had known that Vanderpump Rules was ending. So I'm actually just going to play that clip for you guys right now.
For you guys. If you would have known that VPR was going to end as we know it before you did season 11, would you have done anything differently?
So no, I wouldn't. And I knew I was adamant after season 10, I am not coming back to Vanderpump Rules. I'm on such a fucking high. And they were like, just one more season. And I was like, this is going to turn very bad. This is going to turn out very badly. I'm just letting you all know it's going to turn out badly. It turned out worse than what I prepared everyone. Okay. So there's one thing that I would have changed. And it wasn't on camera. I wish that after the finale, after I lost my mind, that I would have called Ariana and said, I want to let you know that I said some really, really hurtful things. It'll probably be friendship ending. It was not my style. I can't even believe that I didn't do that because I'm so adamant about when I say things behind your back, I'm going to say it to your face. I still went to her show. I still supported her, all the while knowing that I said what I said. Because I think in my mind, I compartmentalized. I was like, but that had to do with the show. Totally. I was angry at her for the show. And I wasn't even angry at her. I don't regret saying what I said. I regret not giving her the heads up and saying, I said this because of X, Y, and Z. I probably should have told you sooner on camera, but just giving you the heads up, this is going to come out.
Because you guys didn't see the end of the final episode until you were sitting at the reunion.
With each other. No, but I knew that they weren't going to air it until the reunion. I got the call that it was like, hey, by the way, they're saving the last 15 minutes. And I was like,
but Ariana didn't get that call. And if she did, she didn't answer because she looked at me at the reunion and said, what the f-? And I was like, you didn't know this was happening? Like, I knew this was happening. So I assumed everyone knew because I knew she knew.
Yeah. And obviously, I think a lot of people are like, Lala thought that wouldn't air. And I'm like,
no, we knew it would.
Are you crazy?
Well, then that's where I struggled too with my loyalty to Ariana and Lala because I was there when she said these things. And I also didn't give Ariana a heads up because I'm like, well, this was said on the show and now the show is done filming and then we'll just go back to our lives and then we'll film the reunion. And I assumed before the reunion she would have seen it. I had no idea they were going to hold it until then. But that too, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell Ariana what she said and then have you be upset with me.
I appreciate you not telling her.
It wasn't my place to tell her, because then that would have just caused an issue with us. The show was done that night. You know, what's the point of me telling her and having them fight after the show was already wrapped? It just wouldn't have done any good.
I have another.
That's interesting. I just feel like these are Ariana's friends, and think about all of these people that knew that this had happened and were holding it back from her and just let her watch that for the first time in front of everyone, right? I also don't really understand what Lala is saying, where she was like, "Oh, I totally wasn't going to come back for season 11, but they made me and they said, let's just have one more." What are you talking about? You went on and on in the reunion of season 11 that Ariana wasn't doing her job, and because she wasn't doing her job, that affected your ability to take care of your child. Okay, well, how were you going to take care of your child if you weren't going to do season 11? And then, like at the end of season 10, beginning of season 11, you buy a house. Then after season 11, you buy another house. So what was your plan here? You just keep buying homes, but you weren't planning to continue on the show? I just feel like that's weird. I also haven't decided how I feel about Lala holding this information back from Ariana. I mean, obviously, she should have told her. I completely agree with that. I just feel like I have so many more feelings about it that I haven't processed yet. But one thing that I did want to mention, like she says that she was supporting Ariana all the while knowing she had said these things behind her back. But Ariana was also supporting her. Like they filmed the finale, I want to say beginning to mid-September. And near the end of September was Lala's 5-year sober anniversary. She had a whole party. She had all of her friends there, including Ariana. And as the room was scanning, you see Ariana clapping and cheering for her. Again, not knowing that only a couple weeks prior, Lala had said all this shit about her. So, in that vein, I feel really disgusted that Ariana had supported her at all during the season and post the season, not knowing the real way that Lala felt about her. And I think that's pretty shitty. All right, I think we are done for the news. Let's move into our recaps. Okay, BBs, I want to take a minute to talk to you about Fungies. Fungies is the brand that's making mushrooms mainstream by transforming wellness into something fun, delicious, and accessible for everyone. With their range of functional mushroom gummies, Fungies is helping people naturally improve their focus, energy, immune health, relaxation, and even beauty from within. Their gummies are gelatin-free, vegan-friendly, and made with clean, natural ingredients. They are free from artificial dyes and junk you don't want, making them perfect for the entire family. They also taste pretty great. So there are 4 different kinds of gummies, and my fave so far is the Lion's Mane mushroom gummies. These gummies are the perfect blend of taste and effectiveness designed to help focus, memory, a healthy mood, and overall brain health. So I've tried these gummies before work, and I have to tell you, I feel like I can concentrate and I can focus better on the task at hand. Ready to give your brain a boost? You can find these yummy gummies in the vitamin section at your local Walmart for less than $10 or conveniently shop on their website, eatfungies.com. Enjoy free shipping and 20% off with code DANA. That's eatfungies.com. So we have The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills from last week, and we pick up where we left off, which is at Sutton's Surrealist party, where Dorit and Kyle are like going at each other. Dorit explains that she's most hurt about what Kyle said on Amazon Live about Dorit exaggerating their friendship. Dorit tells the camera that it feels like Kyle took 8 years of like a close sisterly friendship and flushed their friendship down the toilet. Kyle says that she did that because of the whole Richard sisters thing from BravoCon, which again, to remind you, Dorit was asked at BravoCon which of the Richards sisters is her favorite, and she made a joke that it was Kathy, which it was clearly a joke, and that's what Dorit ends up saying to Kyle. But clearly Kyle can't take a joke at all because this was literally nothing. Like, I can't believe that this is what Kyle is genuinely upset about. And I'm a Kyle apologist, and I have to tell you, I am not apologizing for Kyle in this episode. I'm kind of, I'm anti-Kyle this episode. So Dorit says that she thinks that the real reason that Kyle said that on Amazon Live was because Dorit said on Watch What Happens Live that Kyle pulled away from her as she got closer to Morgan. Now, Dorit is taking no prisoners. She is just like saying exactly how she feels. She's like, you isolated me, you were cold, and you were distant. And Kyle's like, I was struggling. And Kyle says that she thinks that she's been a good friend, and Dorit reminds her that a good friend would tell another friend when you're mad at them. And Kyle's like, yeah, but I was going through the worst 2 years of my life, so you should have given me grace. And Dorit's like, I did give you grace, but like over time, you saying that like our friendship was exaggerated. Like, I'm really, really hurt by that. And you can see that she's really, really butthurt by that part. And that's fair, right? Like, if Dorit feels like they had a real, genuine 8-year friendship and Kyle is sort of treating it like, meh, we barely hung out, that would be devastating to me as well. So Dorit feels like she needs to have an honest conversation with Kyle to move past all of this, but she feels that all she got was bullshit. She says to the camera that she wants to have a voice and a stand, and she wants to be a different girl than you've seen in the last 2 years. And I feel like we already have. I feel like it seems like Dorit is road raging through life, and I'll be honest, I'm here for it. Like I'll say again, because I feel like I said this before, we did not think we were getting Dorit back this season. And with this split with PK, it's just interesting. Like she is a whole different person. Like she really is just saying everything that she thinks and feels, and she's not holding back. And I'm here to watch it. I'll watch it with popcorn, right? So Bose tells us that her husband died of terminal cancer when her daughter was turning 4. She's telling us this at an event that she's hosting, where basically she's teaching people how to become a boss like her. And she talks about it in such an interesting way about how he lost out on being a father, and it actually made her and her daughter much closer. So we've actually gotten so much about Bose in such a short amount of time. We know about all the businesses that she's been a part of and that she's run. We know about her family makeup. We know about the tragedies that her family has experienced. So 2 episodes in, I'm pretty impressed by her. We have Kyle and Sutton going to lunch. And Kyle talks about how her and Mo are really getting along and they will no matter what. And Sutton's like, for now. She's like, listen, with money, things can be different. Now, Kyle tries to defend Mo, and she's like, look, he would never try to take me to the cleaners. And she points out that in his book, he says that he wouldn't have anything without his wife. Sutton correctly points out to the camera that a court of law would not be using his book as evidence. So Sutton tries to take an interesting approach with Kyle, very sort of authoritative, and she's like, Kyle, I think it's time. I think you need to file for divorce. And the thing is, Kyle sort of like hums and haws about it. And Sutton is concerned because while they're still married, that anything she does is still partly his. But the thing is, though, this really is a personal decision, like whether you want to file. And Kyle does not seem ready, and she also doesn't seem to think it holds priority. But I also think there's a part of her that feels like if she files, there's a lot more finality to it, and she's just not ready for that. Kyle tells the camera that she doesn't really trust Dorit right now, and she's sort of oblivious to other people's feelings but her own. Then we see Dorit and Erica going to Bose's house, and Dorit says that over the last few years, there's been a set of rules for her with Kyle and a set of rules for everyone else. And I feel like whenever she says these things, Erica will agree, but then she's always like, I see both sides, I see both sides. And I'm just really obsessed with Erica's role of peacemaker in Switzerland this year. Like, it's really fun for me to watch. It suits her. I just love it. Because even though Garcelle also doesn't have a lot going on this season, for some reason, Erica having this role where she's still a part of everyone because she's a part of their problems because she's sort of becoming the sound piece for everyone and the peacemaker, that does give her a role a little bit more than Garcelle does, who doesn't have a storyline either, I guess. I also find Dorit losing her shit about Kyle fun to watch. Dorit talks about things with PK and how it's been hard with the kids who think he lives somewhere else and he's just like working and stuff. But she says the kids are also actually kind of used to that because when PK was drinking and they would fight, he would take off and not come home for weeks. So she said the kids are kind of used to it. Erica talks about how she understands Dorit like suffering in silence and not telling anyone what's really going on because she did the same thing. And I do kind of understand that too. I mean, these were 2 relationships that on the outside appeared, like they didn't have a ton of problems. I mean, we saw a bit with PK and Dorit just last year, but we definitely never saw anything with Tom and Erica. And despite this being reality TV, there's always a picture that couples want to portray on TV, despite you may want to be as honest and open as possible. There's still, it's your family. You still want it to look a certain way. So it definitely makes sense that Dorit and Erica and probably many other housewives in the franchise aren't 100% honest about their relationships as the years go on. So Sutton invites the girls over for pizza and PJs, and they talk about how Mo actually replaced a picture of him and Kyle in his office with him and his Dancing with the Stars partner. This is so cruel and childish and like weird. And I actually can't believe he did that. So they bring everything over to Kyle's house to surprise her. And Kathy tries to make Kyle feel better by saying that Mo is aged and making fun of him for like his gym pics, but she doesn't really like it. Erica and Sutton talk about their divorces and how they were like deer in headlights when it happened. And Kyle tries to make it like her situation is different and says, well, like they have the utmost respect for each other. Girl, would a man who respects you switch out your photo like that? Like, Kyle tells the camera that so many people are used to divorces being nasty, but she doesn't think their situation is the norm and it won't be like that. She says maybe that's pompous of her, and it is. Like, you truly don't know someone until you go through something like this. But maybe she's right. Maybe they're not the norm. It isn't the norm to keep living with your ex. It isn't the norm to go to Stagecoach with your ex and stay in the same house. Definitely isn't the norm for your ex to be hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds on the ski slopes and blasting it all over social media. It isn't the norm for your ex to hold hands with his Dancing with the Stars partner in public and then replace a picture of you with her. So you're right, Kyle. You always are. PK and Dorit meet for dinner, and PK shows off his new outfit and is calling himself Single PK, which obviously hurts Dorit. PK says that he's very clear now on why they are where they are. He says they don't speak to each other nicely and they no longer like each other. And she sort of questions him on that, and he, sort of doubles down. Yeah, we don't like each other. He says that she goes low very quickly. She says that he gets angry and he kind of can't come out of it. And then PK says that they just have some deep-rooted resentment for each other. And he says that what he wants from a marriage is the spouse comes before the kids. He says that she was always a very vibrant, busy, always with him type of girl, and she isn't the same girl who came to him. He says that it was him who was the global entrepreneur and businessman, and she made him feel less than all the time. Excuse me, sir? She had a business before she met you. She had a swimwear line, okay? She gave that up to be with him. And even when she tried to venture back into it, he would still take over by renaming it, like remember Beverly Beach? It's so clear that PK will have like the same patterns with women as he goes forward. Because remember, he was married with kids before Dorit. So once she got older and didn't want to party, he left. And now with Dorit, it's the same thing. So he wants a woman until she becomes a wife, and he doesn't want what a wife is. Actually, he does, but his definition of what a wife is putting your husband before your kids, which is ridiculous, because Dorit is obviously going to put her small children first. Dorit says that she hears him, and she doesn't want to make him feel that way, but she reminds him that they're like in a good place. They talk 5 times a day. And he's like, yeah, but we're not going to. And she doesn't really seem to understand that. Like, it really seems like PK has already moved on in the few days that they've been separated, and Dorit is more so settling into the decision, so she's still in a place of being bewildered. But it's pretty clear that he's checked out. All right, that's the end of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for this week. Let's get into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap. So we start with Meredith going to this gallery, and she's supposed to meet Mary there, and Mary is an hour late. Mary is really mad when she sees Meredith, and she says that Meredith severed their friendship. But Meredith doesn't know what Mary's been dealing with Robert Jr., so it's clear she's worried about him and can't focus on the trivial housewife drama right now, which is super understandable. Then we have a scene of Angie and Lisa and their kids going to the aquarium, and the women talk about how they got off track. Lisa says that she's fine with Angie being friends with Whitney, but she doesn't want her to choose sides. Angie says that she never meant that Lisa was a bad mom, and she doesn't actually feel like that. And Lisa just says she wants Angie to just have her back a little bit more and to hear her when she says that she's hurt. Angie says that she loves Lisa, but she needs to be treated differently by her. And this was actually really interesting. So she expresses that when she was growing up, her mom, who had had struggles, when things were chaotic, Angie would just try to stay calm. And so when Lisa gets elevated, it takes her to that same sort of place and how she feels like she needs to stay calm. So I'm really impressed with Angie for having that much insight into herself and to be able to communicate that in such an effective way. Like, hats off to Angie. It's clear to me, though, that even though Lisa says it's not about Angie being friends with Whitney, it is. Like, it bothers her, of course. But, like, she can't forbid someone else on the cast not to talk to another cast member, so she just instead keeps spiraling about it, I guess. The ladies end up having a Girl Scout camp party, which is hosted by Heather and Whitney. Brittany talks about Jared and says that they're doing better than ever, but they can't seem to stay broken up. And she says that when they broke up, she would be dating like 10 guys, like BYU style. And Heather explains what this means. Okay, so we get a little bit of information about soaking. So soaking is when a penis penetrates a vagina without motion. And I love that to Mormons, this isn't sex, because to them, there's no pumping, there's no humping, and there's no orgasm. What a fun religion. So basically, the way Heather explains it, and you can tell that she's done this many a time, is the July 4th euphemism of a bun with a hot dog and the hot dog just sitting in the bun. And that is what soaking is. Cool, you guys. All right, well, Meredith and Mary kind of start going at it, and Mary expresses that Meredith walking out of her house was very rude. Bronwyn gets thrown into the mix, and she says she was surprised that Whitney and Heather planned this event together today because Whitney said that Heather won't have her back because she'd rather be friends with Lisa. Bronwyn said that Angie and Whitney told her that Lisa fucked them over and that it would happen to her. And then there's a flashback to Whitney saying that Lisa is the type of person that hurts other people to make herself feel better. Then Mary says it's all true about Lisa, and they start going at it, and everyone leaves mad, like every other event, basically. Then we have Meredith inviting a few of the ladies and their men over for Shabbat dinner. So it's Jared and Brittany, Bronwyn and Todd, and John and Lisa. Todd actually tells the group at Shabbat dinner that he did a background check on Bronwyn when he first met her. And the room goes kind of silent. I mean, would we? Okay, so it seems strange, but would we judge it if a girl did it to a guy? No, we'd be like, yeah, do your background check, girl. He could be a freak. So, I don't know. Bronwyn says that she can be a real snarky cunt, and Todd whispers to her twice, don't say that. Don't say that. He really is controlling, isn't he? Like, he doesn't seem to like her crass nature, but that's her nature. She's quirky, she cusses. Like, he shouldn't try to change her. That's the person that she is, but it really seems like he tries to control the way she speaks and the way that she acts in public and possibly in private. Who really knows? Then they start talking about Mary and how she's been acting, and Meredith says that her behavior is unusual and it's not in character for Mary. And they all agree that maybe Mary is going through something. So then we get this really important scene between Mary and Robert Jr. And I'm not going to recap the whole thing. I'm going to say trigger warning because obviously it's a very emotional scene. I don't think it's the kind of thing to recap necessarily. I think it's the kind of thing it's important to watch on your own if you feel comfortable doing so. It could be triggering and upsetting to people with mental health issues and people with addictions. So it definitely is not necessarily right for everyone. What I will say about this scene is that it was the most real thing I've ever seen on reality TV in my entire life. I was so impressed with Robert Jr. for being honest with his mother about his struggles. He expressed, I mean, there's one thing that I'll say that I thought was really reminiscent of ways I felt, where he said that he feels like life is like chicken unseasoned. And that is a really interesting way to explain depression. I've been through depression myself, and I definitely understand the image that he's portraying. That completely makes sense when you just feel life is bland and you just sort of can't get out of that. And I was really impressed with him for the way he's able to explain that and express that to her. Not everyone is able to explain depression in such a comprehensive way. And he's completely honest with her. And the way that Mary reacts, the way that she makes sure he knows that he's loved and protected and that she will help him and be there for him and doesn't make him feel bad or wrong or stupid. I was just so impressed with her as a mother, as a person. I mean, we see Mary as like kind of a Martian, this quirky, silly woman who sort of seems to have her head in the clouds. But the way she handled her son and this situation and his health and his best interests, I am a Mary stan for the rest of time. So I strongly encourage you to go watch those last 5 minutes of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City for yourself if you feel capable of doing so. I watched it maybe 5 or 6 times, and honestly, I cried every time. I did find it very impactful, but totally understand to each their own. So that is the end of today's episode, you guys. I am hoping to be back within the next couple of days with a really, really good interview. That is my hope. And I will see you soon, BBs. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to I Take Bravo Very Seriously in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can listen to this show and any other episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch full-length video episodes on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. You can follow me on Instagram at I Take Bravo Very Seriously and at The Bravo Investigator. You can follow me on TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.